So you're probably wondering what brand bike this is. Don't worry about it. They got you right here. They got you right here. They also got you right here. And if you still forgot, they got you right here. 180 millimeter on the front and the rear discs with dual piston DYISLAND hydraulic brakes. For a front suspension, there is no compression adjust. However, you can open it and lock it out. And you do have preload adjustment. The front and rear motor are 1,000 watt apiece and they peak at 1,500 watt. Here's some of the information on the motor itself. We have a 1,200 watt hour battery rated at 25 amp hours. And with a 3 amp charger, it charges from roughly completely dead to fully charged in 8 to 9 hours. Now I'm going to talk a little bit later on about this, but we have a 4-point linkage system for the rear suspension. I'll talk about these tires a lot just because I love the sidewall. CST BFT tires, 26x4. So just like your vehicle, this does need a key to fire up, so make sure you store this in a safe location. Turn that on, we hold down the power button, should fire right up. So you do have a left blinker and a right blinker. Now in order to turn the headlight on, you do not have to hold it down, you just tap the headlight button. Your horn. We have a half twist throttle with a palm rest for our grips, and it is kind of soft, you know, your typical rubber type of grip. Shimano 20 derailleur with a 7-speed gear set. Double wall front sprocket to stop your chain from flying off. And then for our pedals, they are in fact plastic. Before we get on this and ride, there's something I want to talk about. This is in fact a dual motor, front and rear. Notice that there's no button. So it's essentially a setting. So now when we turn this on, it's going to default to the rear motor only. P2 is going to be the front. P3 is going to be the front and the back, and then P0 is timely dual motor. Honestly, I have no idea what that means. Every single time you turn this bike on, it's going to default back to just the rear one. P3 is the front and the rear. That's what we're going to go with. Okay, there we go, right off the jump. So that is 0 pedal assist, but I feel like, okay, I feel like that it's helping me. Even though that said 0 pedal assist, it was actually helping me somewhat. P1, 13 miles per hour with pedaling. Let's test the throttle, same thing. I do apologize for that little bit of noise you hear. That's the front brake, nothing to be concerned about. And then pedal assist 2. And keep in mind that we are in dual motor. I'm not really gonna test each single motor because with all bikes, I recommend if it has dual to run it in dual just because it splits that power evenly and it's not gonna be so much strain on just one motor. Okay, so that's top speed. Let's go to 3. That's nothing to be concerned about. I know you hear that noise. That's essentially the front brake just needs to be bed in. Pedal assist 3, you'll see we're going 22 miles per hour. Let's boost this up to 4. And that's about the max speed, and then if we go to 5, oh yeah. Speedometer is saying 35. Okay, so pretty good speed with pedal assist 5. With most disc brakes, you have to bed them in, and these are 180 millimeter discs with dual piston DYISLANDs. We've seen these before on a lot of other bikes. Good brakes, just make sure you properly bed them in, and then you'll get rid of that sound. So we're just gonna bed them in real quick, just the front, and then nail it. There we go, very nice. Now you'll notice by looking at the disc that the caliper actually has a good bite.
on the actual disc itself, which is a good thing. Very good stopping power for what we have. So let's test the suspension out. Now the suspension, oh, there we go. It's a little bit bumpy. So the suspension is essentially preload adjustability, but no compression. You can only lock it out or open it up. And obviously right now it's in the open condition. And you'll see here with the wear that is the preload by stock. So that's pretty good, you know, it's standard. And then our rear suspension is non-adjustable, 4-point linkage, which I really think is kind of irrelevant. If you don't have any adjustability, it would be nice to see that. Yeah, that front suspension goes down quite a bit. So take a look at that suspension. Preload is maxed out. Obviously, we cannot adjust that compression. And when we hit those brakes, you'll see a little bit of a bend to those forks. It's nothing to be concerned about, but it just shows you the quality of what we have. You see it? Yeah, you see it kind of rocking backwards. So what I get out of that is the springs that are inside are not the absolute best quality. They are on the lower spectrum. So now the suspension that's on this by default is about $11 brand new. You can get upgraded suspension, which is what I would recommend, just because 4-point linkage, air suspension, you really want that adjustability because of that swing arm action. You're not gonna get that with this $11 jam. It does provide support, but it's not optimal, you know? It's not like the best that it could possibly do. The linkage is actually better than the suspension itself, if that makes sense. Let's talk about these motors for a second. We have two 1,000 watt motors that peak at 1,500 watts. What's interesting with this system is like when you turn it on, every time it'll default back to just the rear. You have to actually go in, like I did in the beginning, press that I, enable P2, which is just front, which you're not gonna want, P3, which is gonna be the front and the rear. It should in fact save that. Now here's what's interesting. With the 1,500 watt peak, you actually feel that. Let me show you from a complete standstill and how long it takes to get to max speed. You'll see that we're in pedal assist 5 and max speed go. Good amount of torque, but then again, that could be just because we have that front and rear motor on. 1,500 watts. So the battery that's providing all the juice for that front and rear motor is a 1,200 watt hour, 25 amp hour, 48 volt system. So it's fairly good amount of amps, not the best amount of watt hours, but again, if you're gonna be using this a lot with pedaling, I wouldn't be too worried about that 1,200 watts, but if you're gonna be doing exactly what I'm doing, where you're using all throttle, that's not gonna last you very long. The good thing is that it does in fact come with a 3 amp charger, which allows you to fully charge this from completely dead in 8 to 9 hours. Could they have made that battery a little bit larger? Yeah, not really. And I guess they could have put a second battery up here. There might even be an option to get a second battery. I feel like if you had 2 batteries, or if there is a second battery option, that would be much better, just because for a bike that has this kind of speed, you're gonna wanna go long distances with it. As always, people are gonna ask, what kind of range do you get on a bike? Well, on their website, they listed to do 60 to 100 miles. Keep in mind that this is gonna be in the most optimal settings. That's gonna be somebody that weighs 120, 130 pounds, and you're in pedal assist 1. Do I think you can get 100 miles on it? I always feel like they stretch it to like, let me just put it to you like this. They say this bike is 98 pounds. I'll go back to the range in a second. They say this bike is 98 pounds. Got it. And the weight capacity is 350. Now the weight capacity is probably 400, but they list it as 350. I feel the same way with the expected range. They say 60 to 100 miles. I feel like you would probably get 70 miles to this using pedal assist 1. Is most people gonna get an e-bike like this, put it in pedal assist 1, and then ride it? No, I can tell you they're not. They're absolutely not. They're gonna put it in its top speed like I'm doing right now, or maybe in pedal assist 3 or 4, and then just see where they go from that. The distance is really gonna be dictated on how much power you're putting through those motors. The only real negatives I have about this are fairly simple. One can be fixed, the other one can't. The first negative I have is the seat. The seat is extremely hard and uncomfortable. The suspension that's on there is working, but because the seat is so stiff, I feel like I'm just sitting on a cinder block, you know? It's just, it's a little bit tight. And then the second problem I have is the setting for the front rear motor. I wish it had an option to actually save. I mean, it's nice that I could say timely dual motor, whatever that means. It's nice that I can say front motor, dual motor. But there's no option to actually save it when you shut it off. So every time you turn it back on, it's gonna revert back to that single rear motor. And there's nothing on the display that says, hey, you're in this setting. So it's a matter of you having to hold down the eye to test that. That's something that I feel like was overlooked. It could be that they designed this controller for single motor and they just kind of added that and then updated the firmware of the controller. That also tells me it's a single controller, not a dual. It's not a bad bike, right? It's $11.99. It's not something that's gonna break the bank. It's not super expensive, but I remember we got to a point where bikes were super expensive. You know, if you wanted to go 30 miles per hour plus, you were spending, you know, $1,800, $1,900. And I feel like these tariffs has made all these bikes, that was a scroll back there, has made all these bikes cheaper, which is interesting. You wouldn't think it would make them cheaper. You would think that it would actually make them more money. That could be that these companies are just trying to dump what they have as well. Take that as an opportunity, right? So if you're looking at picking this bike up, you'll find a link in the description down below to where you get probably a discount code. So I think right now as it stands, $11.99, it might be $11.49 or $10.99 with the discount code. The bike being the price point that it's at right now, $11.99, do I think it's worth it? Honestly, yeah. There's other bikes that are $1,400 that are single 750s in the back and they go 20 miles per hour. So yeah, I do think it's worth it. There are some reviews of people talking about how the quality of this is not the greatest, how there's other things that could be good about it. Honestly, I don't see the problem. If it was $1,500 or $1,600, maybe. But right now where it's at, it's a steal, right? You're getting a good deal, man. And keep in mind that if you do use the link in the description, it doesn't support this channel. It supports me. It gives me money. It puts money in my pocket so I don't have to work a normal 9-to-5 job. That's fairly accurate, right? I'm retired. So, you know, it is what it is. $1,200, even if the discount code's $100, you're looking at probably $10.99. I would pick it up if you're looking for something that is quick, easy to work on, easy to adjust, dual motor, huge plus. It's just change the damn seat, man. Put something softer in here. I feel like this is made of like old egg cartons or something. It's just not soft, stiff. But all in all, solid bike for what it is. And again, check out the links in the description down below. That will lead you to my website where every single bike that I've done a review on, you can compare them, and a little written write-up that I've done for each individual bike. Thanks for watching. Stay beautiful.